Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Sedona Connection. And we are here on November 9th, the night after the election. It's 6 p.m. on the West Coast and it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And I have to change something this week. It's now 7 p.m. in my home here in Sedona. Yeah, the clocks were set back last week. But, I like to jokingly say we folks, those of us in Arizona, we're the sane people. We don't change our clocks. So what we do is that we change our time zones. So in the summertime, we're in the Pacific time zone. Wintertime, we're in the Mountain time zone. So it's 7 p.m. here in my home here in Sedona, Arizona. I want to welcome everybody to the program tonight. And I think I'm getting through all of my bugs of working out for the live streaming. I had actually done 3 different tests, before we started the program, and I think, I was getting echo and feedback and everything, but I think I got it right now. So welcome everybody to tonight's program. I've got 3 things I'm going to focus on tonight, and then we'll go into our live Q&A. The first thing I do, I'm going to talk about some of the practical, let's get that out there. I'm going to talk about some of the practical aspects of the election last night. Now, as most of you know, I was 12 years as an elected official, a state senator. That's what that plaque there on the back wall says. But here, folks, here's what I like to say. I'm a recovering senator, okay? Give me a little bit of a break on that. I'm a recovering senator because I've recovered from that whole life of politics. But I did spend 24 years of my life around political campaigns. I had 9 of my own campaigns, that I was very much involved in. I had managed a congressional campaign for a short period of time. I worked at a high staff on a U.S. Senate campaign and a governor's campaign. I know campaigns. And when I had gone through my own transition, I decided I don't really want any of that stuff anymore. So kind of for the last 6 years, I've totally ignored all of it. But this one was so different. It was kind of fun to get back in and watch it. So yes, here at my home in Sedona, I was up until 2 a.m. watching all the stuff going on the mainstream channels and in the media and seeing what they were saying and the different stuff coming back and forth. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the practical aspects of this election. This was a very historical election. And then I'm going to talk about the implications of Donald Trump winning and really what that means for us from what I would call a kind of a sense of a higher purposes or a higher consciousness. And then the third thing is I'm going to talk about the impacts that's going to have on us, on the whole RVGCR process. I don't have exact answers on that, but I can share with you what I have now. And then we'll go into open Q&A. But with that, Blanca, how are you doing tonight, my dear?
Doing very good, David. Also like you, paid attention to the election. It was quite a ride.
A ride was an understatement, but go ahead.
That's it. It was a roller coaster. Now, I didn't stay up all night like you did, but Alan did, because he just had to know how it was going to end.
Yeah. Folks, here's what I want you to do also. Would you let me know how well can you hear Blanca coming through? I think I press one button. Sometimes it's the next button. One times it works. But if she's sounding good to you, folks, would you, those of you that are in the chat room on YouTube, I've got the chat room open there and there is a delay that is there. So it'll take a little bit of time for it to come through. Or even some of you that, you're my good friends and you've got my cell phone that you just send me a quick message. Okay, I'm hearing, Blanca, that you're a little bit soft, so that means I got to turn up your volume. Okay? So I've just turned your volume up and say, yeah, okay, now it's saying just fine and all is good. Okay, I turned your volume up. Okay,
hello, folks.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what else do you want to share with us tonight before we get going on the program?
Well, of course, what else is there to share but the recognition that something historical happened, digesting what it means like in the 3D aspect of it, and then what it means in terms of the bigger shifts that you and I and our audience have been taking a look at. So a lot of talking to people about their impressions of it, and so that's mostly what it's been all day for everybody.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, I'm just looking. Okay, and I even had a text message coming saying, you're doing good, my dear, so we're good to go with you. So, it's going to be interesting. For me, I was really into it all last night. And I went to bed last night, and I woke up this morning and was like, well, so what? And I'm going to talk about a little bit how much that we allow the president to affect our lives when really it's always our choice about what kind of an impact that individual is going to have on us. So, um, just some reminder, folks. This is Orlando, the workshop this coming Saturday. I was able to get some additional room in the room for some more seats. So there's still plenty of room if you would like to come. And I've always said, if money's a problem for you, go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com. Scroll down, you can see what you can do if money's tight for you. If you want to be there, I want you to be there. That's the way that I look at this, okay? And tomorrow, I will be putting out a new newsletter and opening up registration for the workshop that I'm going to have here in Sedona on December 3rd. So Friday morning, I get on the airplane and I fly from, Phoenix to Orlando. Going to be a quick turnaround for me. I come back home on Sunday evening. Actually, it's Sunday morning. I got a 7 a.m. flight coming home on Sunday. And then I turn right around on Wednesday because I have to go to the Dallas-Fort Worth because I'm sponsoring Gary Renard in a week from Saturday in Fort Worth, Texas. And folks, that guy's my most favorite author. His books have impacted my life more than anything else. And it's absolutely my love and my pleasure to be able to sponsor him there. So I'm going to drive instead of fly. So that means I'm going to leave here on Wednesday morning and I'll spend the night in Albuquerque, and I'll go ahead and do my Wednesday night radio program from Albuquerque next week. And then I get up and I drive from Albuquerque to the Fort Worth area. Got to pick up, Gary late in the evening, Thursday night at the airport, and I have him for the whole weekend. And then for those of you folks that live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, send me an email because I'm going to have kind of a potluck dinner and get together with a lot of friends that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think we've got room for about 30 or 40 people. So if you would like to join us in a kind of a potluck dinner, send me an email and I can give you those details. Then I've got to meet with some folks regarding the whole RV on Monday and then drive back home, and who knows what's going to happen, after that. So, but that's the scoop, folks. That's what's happening here. Workshop here in this Saturday in Orlando, Florida. The following Saturday, I'm in Fort Worth with Gary Renard. And then on December 3rd, we have another workshop here in Sedona, in my hometown. And that will be our last one all the way until late January. So, because I basically go for about 6 weeks and I don't do anything in return. Hopefully, I got to have a lot of other news that's going on. And a lot of you are asking, well, what's happening? Here's what's been, I've been reporting that paymasters have had the money in their accounts. And what myself and some others began to realize that those sources of information weren't real accurate. It was kind of like there was some distortion that was in there. But we can say stuff is definitely moving in the major financial center where all the stuff takes place. Over the weekend, it was really quiet. We had found out that all of our primary sources have basically gone in blackout. They can't talk. Anything that was coming out, we realized it was designed to be what is called a smokescreen, to put information out, to keep people distracted so there wouldn't be a bunch of pressure that was being put upon them. I can't tell you what's happening right now, other than the fact that I will probably have some more update information in about 2 days. That's all I can say. But remember, folks, that at the workshop, I can open up, I can share a lot more verbally. I just can't do it here on the internet. Because if anything we learned out of this campaign of Hillary Clinton, anything that is put into a digital format, you better believe there's a hacker that can get in touch with it and they can find it. You can't hide anything in a digital format anymore. And so that's why all my sources are saying, Dave, you just can't talk about rates and dates and certain things on your radio program, on your telephone, on your cell phone, in your newsletters, because what happens is people can take what I say and then they distort it, they twist it and they malign it, and they can make it say whatever it is they want to say, and it creates absolute havoc for all of us. And I have to respect my sources, and I really need to respect where the money's coming from. It's kind of like, show me the money. Well, the people that are showing me the money, I have to respect what they have to say. But at the workshops, because the group is small and I don't have 5 to 7 or 8,000 people that are going to listen to it, and because of the fact that there's only around 100 to 120 people there, and I can swear them all to secrecy, and I can say, turn your cell phones off. I can share a lot more there. And the people who have been to the workshops, they will let you know that they get much, much more really in-depth information about it, and they get a much better picture of what's really going on. So that's enough for that. Blanca, is there anything you want to share before we get started in the program tonight?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to hear what you have to say. I'll probably have some questions and thoughts once you have your say.
Well, your comments are always so wonderful. I share with some of my friends that she is such an absolutely what you call color commentator. She adds color to the things that I get to say, and I am always so thankful that you're here and you do such a wonderful job, and you always have so many great, insightful things to say. So, here we go.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Wow, what a night last night. If you heard me in the last couple of weeks, I didn't really expect Donald Trump to win. Hardly anybody expected Donald Trump to win. In fact, I was watching some of the news tonight, and they were saying even the Trump campaign didn't really think they were going to win until when it was announced that he won Florida, then they realized we could do this. And then the other small states started coming through. And when he won Pennsylvania, they realized it was done. That had put him over the top, and they knew they were going to win. And really what it came down to, it's interesting because even the media is saying how the pollsters really got it wrong, how the mainstream media really got it wrong. And what it was due to their samplings because they undersampled what is normal voter turnout in rural America. And what happened is rural America showed up. And they showed up and they voted in mass, very high turnout. And what we were seeing is this really separation that is taking place between urban America and rural America. You look at the blue states, they are loaded with high population centers. And the high population centers are they go blue, they go for the Democrats. In the rural areas are going Republican. And it was the folks in rural America, the everyday, heart of the earth farmers, rural Americans, and what you call blue collar workers. They say we've been disenfranchised. They're catching the fact that we are basically, it's what I had talked about a little bit on the video and last week. It says we have moved into a country that's really no longer a true democracy. It had become what is called an oligarchy. We have become a country that has basically been run and controlled by the power of money and corporations, and the people have been left behind. And one of the hallmarks of the United States, of us here in America, is that we were always supposed to be this champion of being a government of the people and by the people. And the common everyday folks were feeling they were being left behind. There's a real division. We have seen a real division and split in this, and we're seeing it even in the follow-through today with a lot of the protesting that is going on because Trump had won. It was really interesting. It was yesterday I'd noticed this little posting on Facebook, and this one says, if Trump wins, I'm leaving the country. And then right after it says, if Clinton wins, I'm leaving the country. And then after that it says, really, folks, I just need a vacation and I'm getting out of here, okay? So is what it had said. But all of a sudden, there's this news coming out of all these celebrities that have said they're going to leave the country if Donald Trump gets elected. And then I saw another post. It says that the searches for airline flights from the United States to Canada is up over 1,000% because all these people are thinking the world is going to fall apart and our country is going to fall apart because Donald Trump got elected. Well, my perspective, I understand that different people can see this differently. Different people can have different perspectives of how they view what was important to them. And as I said to you, man, I was a political junkie for a long time. And but what it really, I've kind of been able to unattach myself to where whatever happens is whatever happens, and I don't allow it to have what I call a dramatic impact on me. It was really kind of fun and entertainment for me to watch everything that was going on last night with all of my experience because, I can read between the lines and what they're saying. And I know the strategies of why they're doing what they're doing and what's coming through and why they say what they say. Because I said, I've been around campaigns for 24 years. But what we really saw was the shift last night when a lot of it said that a lot of people said that this just was not going to happen. It wasn't, there was going to be, we just didn't expect Trump to get elected. I come from the place that this whole RVGCR is very serious to me. And I come from the place that we just don't live in an oligarchy. We really live in a not just a country, but we live in a world that is controlled by what we call the cabal, the shadow people, the shadow controllers. I experienced it directly when I was in the legislature, and I also saw my friends that were in Congress. You know, there's 435 members in the House of Representatives, 100 members in the Senate, 535, but yet the reality is only 5 of those members of Congress run the show. They are in control. They're kind of like gatekeepers, and everything goes through them. And if they don't approve of it, nothing gets done. So the people, the money people know and understand, if you can control those 5 and you can control the president, you can control the United States of America. And the people are starting to get that and starting to understand that. The people are coming to the point where they're beginning to wake up. I think if there was any one thing that was very positive about this election, is that the people in America are beginning to wake up that it's not what we thought it was. It's not what we have always been taught that it is, and that we don't really have a true democracy anymore. But there is always something that's very important, what you call the collective voice of the people. And what we really begin to see through all of this is the fact that for the first time, the people began to listen. You know, as long as I've been around political campaigns, I was really amazed how much there was not what you would call the follow-through of coattails. Normally, if you have a very strong movement for a president, you will find that coattails will come down through the rest of the elections within the state. The Senate elections, the governor's elections, the local legislative elections. And the media last night was really commenting about the lack of coattails. What does that say? The people were beginning to wake up and making independent decisions. Now, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, whether he was your person or not your person, okay, there's one thing from a practical perspective. This was a historical election. Last night when I was watching, one of the commentators says, you know, Donald Trump didn't defeat just one party, the Democrat Party. He defeated 2 parties last night. He defeated the establishment party of his own party that he was running under. And they said Trump really is not a Republican. He was also willing to run as an independent if necessary. He attached himself to the Republican because he knew the fact that there's always support when you come through on that. And it says it is the first time, probably since President Jackson, going all the way back to the early 1800s, that we have seen someone that really stepped in and totally defeated the establishment. Trump didn't defeat just the Democrats. He defeated 2 parties. He defeated the establishment. And in my opinion, he's got the cabal on the run. Now, I'm not going to say I understand all of this. I'm not going to say I understand everything that is going on out there. But I am willing to say the fact that it's pretty clear that Trump was not an establishment candidate. He was not a cabal run and controlled candidate. And if you think the Clintons weren't cabal run and controlled, then we haven't seen all of the stuff yet that is going to come out from WikiLeaks. There was a real clear division that was taking place in the people from what was coming from out of the WikiLeaks stuff. Okay, hold on just a minute. You know, I've got some people here on, the chat room. You know, folks, I'm not going to tolerate your trolling, and if you aren't going to be respectful from here, then fine. Folks, you're gone. Okay. If you don't like what I'm saying, that is your problem. I'm not here to please you. Okay. I'm not here. This is a select group, and I'm going to honor it that way. I'm not going to be here to allow you to go trolling and debating and arguing back and forth. And there's a couple of you on there that you already know what I'm talking about. This is not your forum for you to be debating back and forth. Okay? I glance over at the chat room. That is not my primary focus. That is not where I'm going to give myself here tonight. I don't do what others do. And if you don't really like what I have to say, well, that's your problem. Okay? That's yours. All right? So that's your choice. I'm not here to cater to popularity. That's I'm happy. I'm a happy camper if I got 500 people watching this each week, or if I had 10,000 watching each week. I have a specific purpose and mission in what I choose to do. Okay. And so if you guys that are on the chat room, if you're going to start trolling and if you're going to start attacking, you will be gone. That's just that. If you want to be respectful and if you want to listen, that's your choice. Okay. And you're then more than welcome to be here. But if at any point in time, if I see you being belligerent and getting that, you're gone. And I don't apologize for that because, this is my show and I get literally hundreds of emails that people say that they respect that and they want that and they really don't like that type of negative, attacking, derogatory comments and language in this program. They like to keep things above board and to be honest. Okay. So, yeah. So, okay. That's all I need to say. I'm not even going to say anything more about that. So, okay. So, with that, folks, I want to go on. It says this was an absolutely historic election. They were commenting about how the fact that they haven't seen anything like this in probably 70 or 80 years. And it was interesting where even the Republican establishment was not necessarily supporting Trump. This morning, I was able to capture on the news the press conference that Paul Ryan had, who is the Speaker of the House. And he basically came out and said, without actually saying it, we screwed up. The establishment of this party didn't really capture what Donald Trump had captured. He captured the heartbeat of a lot of people that feel they're being disenfranchised. He captured the heartbeat of people who have felt that they are being left out. And he tapped into that. He tapped into that heartbeat in rural America. And that's what got him elected. And he says, we missed it. He came right in and said that we, as the leadership of the Republicans in Congress, missed what he was saying. And personally, I don't think they missed it. I just think they had become fairly arrogant because it's their job to know that stuff. It's their job to be in touch with the people. It's their job to understand who puts them there and to be responsive to that and to understand those things. So, okay, there's another thing that I want to make a comment with that's really kind of interesting. Last night during the election, what had happened was they were commenting about what was happening in Wall Street. The futures market was crashing. And at one point in time, the futures market was down almost 800 points before they had announced the final results. And by the time they did announce, the futures market had basically come back to 600 points down. Now I'm talking about the Dow average, okay? What that means is that when the Dow opened in the morning, it was going to open up 600 points down. But if you saw what happened today, the Dow closed today 250 points up. What that meant was it made over 1,000-point reversal in less than 24 hours. So there's a lot of confusion that is going on. There's a lot of fear that is going on. There's a lot of misunderstanding that is going on. But here's what I think. I think that we have the opportunity to step into something and to allow this to be very positive. I want to quote something from you. Most of you know that I use as a guidance kind of, for me, it's Course in Miracles. And there's a great quote that I was reading that I saw today in just some of my daily readings that I'm doing. And it says this: perception can make whatever picture the mind desires to see. It says, remember this. In this lies either heaven or hell, as you elect and choose to see. What's that saying? Your perception begins to build whatever it is you want to choose to see and to experience. And that perception will determine to you how you experience your life. If life is an aspect of heaven for you, because you choose to see heaven, you choose to see positive things, you choose to come from a place of love, you choose to come from a place of forgiveness, you choose to come from a place of a lack of contention, you don't judge, you just let things be. And in that is the place of peace. If life is contentious for you, If you are experiencing issues of hellishness, you'll probably find that you're someone who's in contention, arguing, fighting, debating, always finding wrong, always wanting to point out somebody else's faults and errors, always wanting to attack. Let me quote that again. Perception can make whatever picture the mind desires to see. Remember this. In this lies either heaven or hell, as you elect. So whatever the outcome of this election is going to be, if you think the election and the fact that Donald Trump is now our president-elect is one of the worst things that can ever happen to America, then that's your perception. And that is the hell that you will experience. If you can choose to see that maybe you didn't even like the guy, and I don't really like the guy, but I can choose to see some positive things that can come out of this. I can choose to see that there's a real silver lining on the cloud of him being elected. Then that impacts my life. And it impacts me getting to experience what I call heaven in the moment, is what it is. That my life gets to be one that is peaceful. My life gets to be one where I'm in control of my life. I'm not allowing outside external events to impact me. You know, it was interesting because in this election, there was a lot of people, regardless of what side of who won, says they were going to be upset, they were going to want to leave America, they were going to protest. We're seeing all these protests going on in a lot of the cities tonight because they're upset that Trump won. And if Clinton had won, we would have probably seen the militia groups ramping up with their guns and ready to take on and take America back. You know, that's because of the conflict that they're experiencing within themselves. Okay? Now, let me show you something what I experience. It's amazing as I go through the day and I look at what all the postings on Facebook and how much people want to attack, how much they want to point fingers, how much they want to blame, and how much they want to say all the problems in the world are out there and you're creating discomfort for me. And I'm coming back to that quote that says, no, that's your perception. You're the one who is choosing to say and to perceive what impact it is having on you. I'm amazed against some of the quotes that I'm hearing in the news saying Trump's going to do this and he's going to do this and it's going to create this problem, it's going to create that problem. And on the opposite side, there were lots of people that were feeling the same way about Clinton. Ask yourself this question. We're finishing up 8 years of Barack Obama being president. What one thing has he done that's impacted you, other than how you feel or how you perceive? You know, other than his responsibility behind Obamacare, there is nothing he has done, said, put into law, signed a bill, made an executive order, or made a speech that has impacted me, other than what I have chosen to let it be. So you see, I can choose how life is going to affect me. I can choose what impact it's going to be on me. And the best way you know what impact it's having on you is go inside. Get in touch with your feelings and your emotions and what's happening inside of you. Is there turmoil? Is there agitation? Is there anger? Are you wanting to lash out and attack? All that is a reflection of what's coming from within. If you want to blame the president, it's always a matter of first going and looking within, because the president just doesn't have the power that we think that he does. I had put out a little Facebook post the other day. And I said, you know, we've always been taught that the President of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. And I came back and I said, no, he's not. The most powerful person in the world is not the President of the United States. The most powerful person in the world is you. You are the most powerful person in the world in your life. You are the one who gets to choose whatever is going on out there and the impact it has on you. You are the one that gets to choose the timing of this whole RVGCR, what dramatic impact is it having upon you? You're the one that gets to choose if you're waiting in agitation, if you're waiting in anxiety, if you're waiting in fear. That's a matter of your perception. But you are also the one that gets to choose that you can be in the place of peace. You can be in the place of patiently waiting. You can be in the place of knowing that this is bigger than all of us. You can be in the place of knowing that when the money comes through, that you will be in control in your life, and the money will not control you. And money is not going to be your answer to your problems. It's going to be a solution to helping fix and heal and change this world. That's what it's designed to do. This whole RVGCR process was never designed to be something that was supposed to make you and me rich. Never, ever. And all the money sources that I'm in touch with will say that. It's designed first and foremost to help replenish and rehydrate this global currency, or this, I should say the global financial market, because all the G7 countries are bankrupt and beyond their ability to be able to get out of debt. And if there isn't something that's going to step in and help alleviate that, we're basically heading for a complete global financial crash. Almost a global financial Armageddon is what we're heading for. But this situation is designed to be happening in steps that will help alleviate that, that will help us make a transition from basically a world of fiat currency that's about ready to fall apart because of cabal, power, and control, to a world of asset-backed currencies, asset-backed money. And they're choosing to use the whales, the large people who can put literally scores of billions of dollars to work in a very short period of time. That's the first step. Those are what are called the tier 1s and the tier 2s. And then they're choosing to use everyday people like you and me in these private exchanges to spread the money out farther. And that's why I have always said that the contracts that I'm aware of in the private exchanges, the vast majority of the money is designated for humanitarian aid causes. You have to give it away, folks. You really have to give all this stuff away. Yes, you will be rewarded handsomely for participating in it, but it's designed to give it away. That's what it's for. I think something that we really saw in this election is what is called the collective consciousness of a group of people that decided they were tired of the establishment and the corruption of a political system. And they stepped up and said, I'm ready for some change. I want to see some change. Donald Trump's got a lot of personal problems in his life. And they were able to overlook all of that to say, he's the best option of what we have to make this change. Well, when it comes to this whole RVGCR process, that's what's happening as well. I'm a firm believer that this money really gets released when we, as a group of people that are involved in this, have a collective consciousness of being at peace with this money. We're not in anxiety around it. I could go on into all kinds of other stuff, backing up what I've just said with scientific basis, what is called quantum physics, about how the power of the mind, what are called memes and the thoughts that come out, how they affect and impact everything around you. And when you have a group of people who know how to bring their collective consciousness, their collective thoughts, their collective means together, they set things into motion. We saw things set into motion last night with this election on a national basis. And I basically have been saying the same thing, is that we will see things set into motion for this RVGCR being released when there are enough people that are coming to it from the right mindset, from a place of peace, from a place of what you call high consciousness minds. And it's not about you fighting and arguing. It's about not you operating from a place of what is called low vibrational energy thoughts, low energy thoughts. When enough of us come together, that's when we're going to see the things set into motion. We all know there's been delay after delay after delay after delay, and these delays have been going on for a couple years on a pragmatic basis. So many of you have been in this much, much longer than that. I've been in direct contact with what I call really major funding money sources in Hong Kong, in another major city, in another major place for well over a year and a half now. All of them it says, we have the money, but we're just waiting for the right time to be authorized to release it. What shifts and changes the mindset of someone at the top is when we as a collective come to that point to release it. When we as a collective come to that point that we have the right focus, the right consciousness, the right energy, and the right attitudes to bring into that. From a biblical perspective, Jesus said that was always the position of faith. He says, anything is possible for those who believe. And believing in faith is basically the same thing. They're just two different perceptions of how they're talked about. He says faith is what changes things. Faith is what puts things into action and has an influence on affecting the outcome of some things that you would like to see. So with that, I think I kind of want to start wrapping up on some of the things that I said here. And Blanca, I think we're going to be ready to start going into the Q&A here pretty soon. Folks, if you would like to come on the radio program, and if you have some comments or some questions, the number to call is 515-605-9356. Again, that number is 515-605-9356. And then you press 1 on your touch-tone phone. And so, Blanca, why don't you go ahead and start screening some of the folks there that would like to come on? And then what I'm going to do also, I've got quite a few emails here that people have mailed in, during the week, and basically have been wanting to have some questions answered. But let me wrap up about
Dave,
this.
Now,
go ahead.
I did want to comment because
okay, go ahead.
You had a lot to say.
All right.
You had a lot to say, and I think a lot of key points. And when you were talking about people not expecting it, maybe not even some of the Trump people not expecting it, it's again the matrix or the illusion was holding a certain reality, but there were a lot of human beings that were ready for another reality, and it manifested. And I'm just trying to tie in what you're saying with this whole RVGCR, and that it will manifest when we're ready to allow it to manifest. So if we have that perception, like you're saying, what do we see? We can see this historical moment of something that was not expected, something that was historical happened because there was an energy and a will and a desire by a great number of people for a major shift. And so this sort of collective effort, collective energy, collective desire, I think is the same energy that will help us realize this wonderful opportunity for the currency exchange. So it's a similar thing. So one of the things that we've talked about is appreciation and relating to the universe with appreciation, in that the universe does reflect what we put out there energetically. Now, sometimes we may not be pleased with what the universe reflects, but if we're appreciative of it, it offers us a chance to correct a certain notion, a certain attitude, a certain energy within us. So it might be an interesting thing to say, let us perceive this big shift, this big historical, unexpected event as a sign that it is possible to manifest certain things that a lot of people believe cannot happen. There's a lot of people who don't believe the currency exchange opportunity is going to happen. Well, what if we hold it in our hearts and in our minds that it can? I think a lot of people, yes, they were disgusted by all the corruption they saw in politics, and I think they were hurting. They saw that they were at a disadvantage and losing out. But also, I think, just from the people that I talked to, held the energy of, wait a minute, as Americans, we've always said we love freedom. And as Americans, we were always proud that we thought we energy behind that and act. So I think that's the same thing with this currency exchange, which you have linked. Faith is very important, and then you and I have talked about the importance of trust. You have faith, but you also have to have trust in the outcome and trust in yourself. So that's all. I just wanted to, I guess, underline the key fact that you're trying to look at this from a much bigger, higher, energetic perspective.
Thank you, Blanca. Your comments are always very, very well appreciated. You do such a good job there. Okay. Yes. And my apologies for I forgot to allow you to come on and do that before I said go screen the folks. So, okay. All right. Okay.
That's all right. I'll be happy to get some folks in line while you check on the other items.
Okay. Folks, before I go into the emails, let me just give again, I mentioned this really briefly. It's been really, really quiet with data and information since last Thursday coming out of our sources. Almost all of them have been put into what is called a blackout. They cannot even talk about it at all. And I even had it mentioned to me that I had to be extremely careful about what I could say and what I could not say. I did make the comment last week that I was told that should Clinton win the election, there was a possibility that the round two may end up being delayed. Well, as if we can see, that is not an issue. That was coming from my sources, of the funding sources, of where that was coming from on that information. It's best for me tonight to not say anything more than that. All I can say is, I've had some really good conversations with some really high quality sources yesterday and today. And they're saying, hold on, just wait just a little bit. They wanted to wait and see what the result was going to come out of it last night, because that does make a difference of how they proceed and go forward. And I'm only going to tell you what is my opinion. I think this election last night, because the Clintons were so heavily involved with the cabal, and I have been saying for almost 3 years now, nothing was really going to happen until we had, but the cabal was, and it's the term that I use, they were going to be neutered. They had to be disempowered from their ability to have power and control over this money that was going to come out. And Clintons were very, very much involved in that process. And I think what happened last night is that we're going to have the ability to be moving forward in a rapid fashion. I don't have dates. I cannot quote that. I cannot tell you rates. That is what they tell me. And as I said, for the most part, they have been on blackout since last Thursday. And anything that you have been seeing that's been coming out since last Thursday, in my opinion, it has been what is called a smoke screen. It is designed to basically keep you off guard, to keep you focused, to keep you looking somewhere else, so they won't be bothered in the work that they're doing to carry this out. Because sometimes all of our talk, all of our stuff that goes on, and some of you have great contacts like I do just as well, that we become a problem for them more than a help for them. So what they do is they put that out there, okay? I'm not going to talk hardly anything more about that tonight, because that's where I'm at, and that's what's being passed on down to me, and I have to respect my sources for that. So, okay. With that, though, I am going to go into some practical stuff and going through some of the emails here. Okay, first of all, it says, there's one here that says, in your opinion, how long after funding do you feel it would take to purchase houses and vehicles for family, friends, neighbors that are in need? Well, once the money is put into your personal account, it's yours to do with free and clear whatever it is you want to do with it. Once that money is in your checking account, and they use the money wiring system to do that, it's yours. It's your money. You're responsible for it. You're responsible for any amount of tax. You would have to figure that into your equation, but it's yours. When your bank clears you to release those funds, that money is your money. What I've said, one of the reasons why it's best to have a Wells Fargo account, Wells Fargo is the contract bank through this process. They are going to know where these funds come from. And so when this money is sent into your personal account, I guess the best way to describe it is it's kind of like I have an earmark on it, and they'll know it's free money ready to go. If it goes into a non-Wells Fargo bank and you have that much money coming in, they have the right to freeze it. They have the right to freeze it and to go back and establish its source of where it came from to make sure that it's good, free, and clear money. That's their prerogative to do that. And if you think something that what I think the banks will hold on to it as long as they can because they want to use it for their float. That's what banks do. I mean, and it's still within their legal parameters to be able to do that. Okay, so it that's where it is on that. Okay, now this says also with regards to the Paris Agreement and the climate change, Donald Trump has promised to put the coal miners back to work, lower the EPA standards for water regulation, etc. Thoughts on the role he will play in compromising something so detrimental to the entire population. Here's been my experience of 24 years of being around elections. 90 to 95% of all the promises that presidential candidates make never happen. Ever happen. It would take a lot for Donald Trump to do that. And believe me, there would be a huge backlash. So first of all, I would say, don't worry. Don't be fearful about it. Do what you feel you need to do if that's something that you want to be a part of a process on. But to a certain degree, the U.S. signed this Paris Agreement, and Trump would have to come in and throw the whole thing out. I wouldn't worry about that stuff. Come back and says, can you name one thing that Barack Obama promised in all of his campaign promises that he was going to do that he actually did? Other than Obamacare, I can't think of hardly anything. I'm not saying he hasn't. I don't have anything coming to my mind. So these candidates make all of these promises and promises and promises, and they rarely, ever happened. It's because the president's not a dictator. He's not a dictator, and he does not have absolute power and control, and he has to work with Congress and has to also have to work within what is called a due process of law. Okay. All right. So that's that one. Let me go on to the next question. This lady had said, I have an LLC business account with Wells Fargo, and and she also have a personal account as well. Which is a better one to use? I've always said, always use a business account. It's always best to do that. You can do whatever it is you want to do, but you will probably find that, if you're going to be using a personal account, you're going to lay yourself wide open for some really potential problems. Always use a business account. It said last week that, in my opinion, if Hillary Clinton was elected, that she would do everything to shut down the private exchanges. I basically said she would probably be delayed, is what it is. But that's a moot issue as of now. This next email was basically the same thing that the Clinton-Trump issue. This next question says, can I assign a family member to administer the escrow account in case I become incapacitated by means of a power of attorney? Well, first of all, I can't give you an exact answer now because every contract is different. I can tell you based on past history, yes, you could do that. They're basically going to want you to assign a beneficiary should something happen to you so that someone else could basically step in and be able to, take control of that, okay? All right. So, folks, some of you are making some comments about, having the chat room open and that I should just go ahead and shut it off. I'm going to leave it open tonight because what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow them to keep putting their own noose around their own neck, and then when it's done, I can do what I want to do to be able to take action with that, okay? So, you know what? No, I'm sorry. There's some of you that are in there that are just... hold on here just a minute, folks. Would you be a little patient with me on this? They basically are just rude and flat out, yeah. So, yeah, we don't need to go through that. We don't need to do that. There's some people that are so disrespectful that is in there. I don't even want to even be able to talk about that anymore and some of the things that they're saying. So they basically showed that they have a very lack of credibility in anything of being a person who's responsible for understanding any of this type of situation. And some of those names are pretty big names that you would know out there on all the blog sites. And I think it's a reflection of where they're coming from. So, okay. All right. So, folks, again, if you want to call in and if you have some questions or comments, the number is 515-605-9356. Again, that number is 515-605-9356, and then you press 1 on your touch-tone phone. So, Okay. And excuse me here just really quickly. I've got some text messages come. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Some of the stuff that was there. Okay. Let's go to one of the first callers. I'm going to a caller from area code 450. I think this is my friend Brigida. Is this Brigida from in Canada?
Yes, absolutely, David.
Hi, Brigida.
Yes.
How are you?
David, I'm fine. And how are you, David?
I'm doing very good tonight.
Okay, thanks. David, I just want to tell you, this is the first time this happens to me. I've always gone to your radio program, Blog Talk Radio, through the click that you mentioned in your email when you send us out on Wednesday or Tuesday an email, saying that if we want to call in, the call-in number is so and so, and if we want to go to the radio program, let's click on this email address. David, I've done this today, but I get nowhere. If I've heard you tonight, it's only because I called in the number that you mentioned on the email, and I've been on the phone all this time, which I never do before. I just go to the radio program, I listen to the radio program as you ask us to do, and if I want to ask you a question, I call in the number that you've stated in the emails. But tonight, nothing of this was working. I just never got into the radio program. Is there anything that has gone wrong? Is there
No,
anything I suddenly don't do right?
because it's working for hundreds of others. So if it's not working for you, it's usually because it's something that's either in your browser. You want to maybe try a different browser.
Okay.
It can be in the cookies that you have that is open, that's creating the link from coming through. But if it wasn't working, I would be hearing it loud and clear from a lot of different sources. I always test the
Yes.
connection also before I send the newsletter out. So usually it comes down to it's either in your browser, it's in maybe some of the cookies problems that you have in your computer. And so either try a different browser or reset or reboot
Okay.
your computer, and that's usually what it does that for that, and it should work from there.
Okay, I will
Yeah,
try that.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I will call upon a friend who is better than I am on computers, and I will tell him what you just told me.
All right. Thank you, Brigida.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Blanca, I think this one person that had all the ones. This is well. I'll bring them in anyway. I'm not certain if. Oh, they want to just make a comment. Okay, I'm coming from someone. Okay, your numbers are all ones, which means you're probably calling in on Skype, but you're on the air. Here, what can I help you with? Hello. Did you? I'm hearing some noise in the background. Did you want to? I didn't get a name. Blanca didn't get. I guess I'm just trying to read what's on there in my chat window on the radio, and I don't think they want to come on the air, so we're going to move on. Okay, I'm going to go to the next person. His name is Jake from area code 702. Jake, you're on the air. What can I help you with?
Oh, there we go. Hi. I just had I have a question that I don't think has ever been answered in a way. And it doesn't really reveal anything I don't think that you can reveal. But I've always had a question in relation to the private exchanges and then even later on with the public exchanges. Why, there is so much tax revenue that is generated into the Treasury as a result of the private exchange and even a public exchange. We're talking huge amounts of dollars. And what I've never been able to understand is why some president doesn't want to have all of that money come flowing into the Treasury while they're in office. And I know you've talked to a lot of people and people kind of in the know, and I'm interested if the question has ever come up and if it might relate to this latest transition of power.
It always comes back to power and control. The moment we have the history of the human race has always been a few kings, monarchs, and dictators massively controlling the massive amounts of people and keeping them in forms of slavery. When this type of money comes through, you have human race, you have thousands, scores of thousands of people who are set free financially. They become very powerful, and it totally disrupts their power base. Cabal people don't care about the taxation of a country and tax revenues coming through. They don't care about that. It doesn't mean anything to them. That's a disruption to their power and control. So it's not about a president having the power. Remember, you have to come back and remember the president is a puppet. The president does not have dictatorial power and control, especially over a cabal. I mean, they would get rid of Obama in a heartbeat. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then the question becomes, why do we hear all of this stuff about it's Obama holding the thing up, or it's this administration holding the thing up, or whatever? Because if it's to their advantage to not hold it up, then why are they? And in other words, if Obama and everybody previous, if it's all cabal and Trump isn't, then why doesn't that reflect a change?
Well, first of all, Trump just got elected last night, so you're not going to see anything coming from him until he's in office. Secondly, I know there are some people that will disagree with me on this, but, to me, Obama is a cabal puppet. He has to do what they say. And they don't know. I've been saying for a couple of years, the cabal do not want this to happen because it ends their domination and control. It ends their power if this stuff comes through. They've been trying to do everything they can to stop it for a long time. And actually, I should say, going all the way back to 1963, when they wanted to, implement the Hilton Green Memorial Agreement, and Kennedy got assassinated out of that. They knew if that came through in 1963, they were done. The cabal was done. It was the end of their power and control. It's always about power and control. And they're addicted to that power and control. And they don't care about you and me. They don't care about how much money comes into the U.S. Treasury. They only care about themselves. And that's where they're coming from. And they're the ones I said who have always been trying to stop this. And we're right at a turning point. This has the potential to be the turning point. Do we absolutely know that Donald Trump is going to be in total agreement with this? I don't know. My sources don't know. That's going to still play out of what we're going to see is what is going to happen. A lot of us do think so. But, this is not a simple issue. This is about the end of hundreds of years of cabal power and control. That's what this is about. That's why it's not very simple, and it's taken a long time for this stuff to come through. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I just, my concern is, as it would be with anybody who is involved in this transaction, is if we're waiting for the death knell of the cabal and the whole worldwide criminal organization to have no power left, why, I think we'd be looking at somewhere around 2090.
I didn't say it was death knell. I said it's being neutered where they cannot influence the movement of the money. That's a term I've been very clear about for 2 years, over 2 years. I use the term you neuter them. They no longer have the power to influence the movement of this money. And that's what's taken time. And we're right on the verge, on the edge of that.
All righty, well, good information.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, okay. Okay, the next caller, his name is John, area code 931. John, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Well, I just wanted to read something to you, Dave, that happened in September the 12th of 2015. When I arrived at home, this was wrote then. When I arrived at home with my wife from her birthday dinner, which we had went out, about 2:30 in the morning, something awoke me, and said, as I got up and walked to the bathroom, I saw the Lord Jesus Christ standing in front of me. He had a white robe on. It hung all the way down to within about 3 inches off the floor, and he had a golden belt on. And he said, my son, Donald Trump will be president. Now, this is September the 20th, 2015. There will be 10 years of plenty and 2 years of disasters. And as I looked at the image of the Lord, I noticed that there was something on each side of him. And I looked down at the floor, and it looked like two old Kirby vacuum cleaners. Back when I was a kid, they didn't come on wheels. They come on rails. And I looked at them two containers, and I looked back at him, and he said, remember, Babylon must fall. And then he disappeared in front of me.
Okay.
Well, this is something that took place last night. Donald Trump became president. There will be 10 years of plenty. That means he'll be 2 terms. And then after he has left office, a new president will take place, and there'll be 2 years that he will be in office, and then there will be some disasters that happen. And it's all about being prepared to do God's work. You know, these funds that are coming, and they will come, these funds that are coming to bless, they don't belong to you, and they don't belong to me. They belong to God. It goes all the way back to King Solomon's mines. And this money is going to be used to glorify his kingdom, to bless his people. Do you realize how much fun and how enjoyable that God is going to allow that you and me have, that we can bless people that are hurting? I've got so many friends, and I know so many people that are struggling. I know people that haven't had my arms and legs amputated and they can't pay the medical bills. And just, can you imagine if somebody, once a lawyer knocks on the door and says, I have something I need for you to sign that you won't try to find out where this money come from because a man from God has sent it, and hand them a check. When I was a kid, I watched a show called The Millionaire. And every week he would give $1 million to somebody, and they couldn't check it to see who it was. And I thought then, when I was a kid, God, why won't you? $1 million is a lot of money right now. Give 10 people $100,000. They could pay for their home, their car, and have a little bit of money in the bank. But you know, it's all about giving. It's not so much about receiving. You know, God wants you to be comfortable and have nice things. But the key to everything is what you do in life with it. Do you bless people, or do you selfishly rat-ho it and hog it? What good's it going to do? You know, I worked for a man one time, and I told him, I said, you know, if you would just bless people with your money, God would multiply it. And he said, no, I'm taking it with me. And I said, when you die, how are you going to take it with you? He said, I'm going to stuff it in my coffin with me. I said, okay. And so then a joke came out later on about that. A man said, promised his wife, he said, I want you to promise me that if I die, that you'll put my money in my coffin with me. He said, okay.
Sure. John,
John,
do you have a question that's in there? Because you've already been going for about 3 or 4 minutes with the mini sermon.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Dave.
that's okay.
I don't mean to rattle on.
Yeah.
That's it, friend. You're doing a good
Okay,
job. God
great,
bless you.
great.
And I hope everything goes great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Mhm. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to a lady by the name of Angela from area code 604, which is up in Canada. Angela, you are on the air. What can we help you with here?
Hi. Well, first, thank you for everything that you're doing and the time that you're putting into this, and for holding the light. And it's been wonderful listening to you. And yes, so I'm calling from Canada, and I just wanted to ask some questions about banking. Like, do we set up in Canada? Do we set up the bank accounts in Canadian accounts, or is there information that you've already done on this that I should go and listen to? Are we supposed to set up accounts in Wells Fargo in the U.S.? And how does that work with another country?
You will not be able to set up a Wells Fargo here in the U.S. unless you have a U.S. address that is a legal address here. Okay.
Okay.
It's whatever bank you want to use, and the money's going to be money wired into that bank through international money wire transactions. That's all that it is. I always just
Okay.
express that you do that in a business account versus a personal account, because in a personal account you leave yourself wide open for attack that you don't have like in an LLC, and whatever the Canadian equivalent of that is.
Right.
And you need to do your own homework on that, because I can't make any recommendations of one bank over another outside of the United States, because I don't have time to do all that research. So
Sure,
yeah.
sure. And is there any previous recordings or I noticed that there was some information regarding trusts and stuff like that. I'm not sure that that's necessarily transferable to Canada. Is there any previous recordings that you're aware of that have been done on, for the Canadian market?
Well, I get Canadian questions on Canada almost every week, if not every other week, and I always have said the same thing. There's nothing different that I know of in Canada, other than the United States, other than the fact that you have to operate under Canadian laws once the money is put into your account, and that's what you need to do and do your own homework and research on. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, fair
The-
enough.
yeah. I mean, because
Awesome.
I've got people from maybe almost 20 to 25 different countries that are on my list, and from all around the world. And obviously,
Right.
Canadians
So
are
it's
the
just in their own country, their
yeah,
own bank,
yeah. You,
international transfer.
you know, you're going to fill out paperwork, and in there you're going to put the bank that you want the money sent to in your bank account, and that's what we're going to do. And after that, it's your business what you do with it. So,
Okay.
okay, all right,
Fantastic. Thank you.
good. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good evening. Okay, okay.
You too.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna go back over to. Let's see. Let's go do a couple emails here before that. Okay. Uh, I just want to make sure that I'm. No, that email is not really applicable for what we have there. Okay. Then the next one says, I would like to know if round one is still on track, and if so, do you think it will happen in 2016? I already basically commented on that earlier. It says, yes, I do believe it is on track, but I cannot give you any other information tonight other than what I have already said, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that's very, very sensitive right now. Okay. So, okay. All right. So I'm going to go on now to the next email. Okay. Okay, here's some questions. It says, you've mentioned for months that the dong is the best way to go, and just recently you mentioned the dinar and have done so several times. So is dinar now a suggested preference in addition to the dong? No, never. None of that's changed, folks. It's your decision, but I would say do your homework. The dinar was so oversold that you're not going to get the return on the dollar that you're going to get from the dong, number one. Number two, should all this fall apart, nothing gets to happen, because none of this is guaranteed. With the dong, you can take your money back to the bank and get your money back. Now you're going to have a transaction, fee on both sides of that. But the dinar is not an openly traded currency on the foreign exchange market. Until that happens, if you need to get your money back, you got to sell it on eBay or find somebody else that's going to buy it from you. That's why I always express dong. But you do what you want to do. Both of those are tradable, but nothing changed on that, okay? Will both currencies be exchanged at the same time? As of now, yes, okay. What is the best prediction of valuation on the exchange? I cannot comment anything on rates. Then there's questions about Canada. I've already addressed that. And it says, you mentioned when the NDA and currency and any other documentation is sent to the drop location, we would also be sending a passport copies and bank information of where the deposits will be made. All that is put into your paperwork. All that is done and sent in advance, all your paperwork. There's what is called a CIS. It's a client information sheet that you have to fill out. You're going to give us basically your information. You're going to give us the right to do a background security check on you, and the preferred form of an identification is a passport. It's not mandatory, but it's much quicker and easier for us to do a background search with a passport than it is a driver's license. Okay, so that's for the reasons why that we have to, what we need to do on that. So let's do it on that email. Questions from Canada, I've already answered that. I just get, folks, I get a lot of questions from Canada, and I repeat this almost every week. I am going to do basically what's called an FAQ, frequently answered question, and I will end up posting that to my site. Hopefully, I'm going to have that done in the next couple of weeks because so that a lot of these questions aren't repetitive. Okay. It's amazing. I think I'm getting through, and some of these also were basically about the presidential election. I've already covered all that stuff there. Yeah. Wow. I think I'm getting through most of the stuff here. So, okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to a caller. Let's do that. Okay. I'm going to go to a lady by the name of Peggy. Peggy, you are on the air. What can I help you with tonight?
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much. I just had an observation. As I look at all these guru, I scan many of their sites every day, and my concern is that while everybody says that, it seems that everybody is gung ho for Trump, and everybody was down on Hillary on most of these guru sites. And the concern is, as I watch him put his cabinet around him, which he started doing today, it seems that all these people that he's choosing to work with are people who are deeply, deeply cabal, and, for example, were deeply involved in the whole 9/11, whatever you want to call it. And so that, are we just jumping from the frying pan into the fire with this whole thing?
I don't know. And I would encourage you to go back and take into consideration what I said earlier. When you wake up tomorrow morning, or you wake up in the morning 6 months from now, what difference is it going to make in your life who he has appointed to in his cabinet? Other than the money not coming through and that they may try to stop it, nothing. Other than what you choose, how you're going to choose to let it affect you. See, Trump isn't going to just appoint anybody's, and I'm not necessarily thinking that he is totally in alignment with us. Remember, the people, those of us who believe this, we're a very, very small percentage of the population. It's interesting when I'm at my workshops, I always ask this question, is how many of you here feel like you're the black sheep of your family? And I'll get 80 to 90% of the people that will raise their hands. Those of us who understand the shadow world that is out there, those of us that understand that there's a cabal-run operation, those of us who understand this whole RVGCR, we're a very small percentage of the population of the United States, let alone a population of the world. So obviously the rest of the world is not going to come from our perspective. And so Trump's still going to go out there and he's going to go through the normal process of appointing people who have experience that are going to reflect his political philosophy, because you really need experienced people to a certain degree in a lot of those positions. And so, yeah, you may have a lot of his cabinet members. They're probably very much aware of the truth around 9/11, but if they were to come out and say it, they'd probably be dead within a week. They can't talk about that stuff,
They were deeply involved in it.
Well, I'm not even going to comment on that. Were they deeply involved in it? I just, it is what it is. You and I are the ones that get to choose how it's going to impact our lives. Is it going to have any impact on me? No. Regardless of who he puts in there. Because, see, I can't control when the truth is going to come out about 9/11. But I can control how it's going to impact me, how it's going to affect my life, and the emotional impact in my thoughts and in my being and in my soul. I can be totally in control of that. You could say the same thing about a lot of the people that Obama had in his administration. So it's what is. It's just what is. Does that make sense?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. The most important thing is for you and I to be in control of us. We are the most powerful people in the world to ourselves. Nobody else is. And we're the ones who get to control that, how it impacts us and how it affects us. And it's learning how to let go of the attachments of what you call ego-minded attachments, where we allow all those things to control our lives when really they don't have any control all other than what we're letting it have. And it's learning how to do that. And when we do that, we become much stronger. people. We become much more focused people. We become very, what you call centered or clear people. We're centered and clear about who we are, what our purpose is, what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, and we don't let all of this outside chatter bother us. See, it took me a long time in my life to get to that point, but I understand that now. And I just don't let all this outside chatter of who's the president, is, what's going to happen around 9/11? Is there disclosure going to take place? When are the UFOs going to, show up? I just don't even pay that much attention to hardly any of that stuff. I don't pay hardly any attention anymore to what's going on all the Dinar Guru blog sites, because I know that 80 to 90% of it is deliberate disinformation. The people who are really running the show, this whole RVGCR, they never, ever come out into the public. Ever. Most of the information, you are never going to know that unless you have direct contact with them. And I know the people who are running the money and doing the money, they've allowed me to do this. And they would tell me to shut down in a heartbeat if they were not comfortable with me talking about this on the air. And I've had them tell me, it says, we've been following you off and on for 2 years, and we trust you. You don't give away confidentiality. You explain this in very broad terms to help people stay informed. And you also tell the truth. And you don't play games with people out there. And you're not trying to get money off of them for yourself personally. And it says, we've followed you for 2 years. We've been able to tap into all your bank accounts. You want to really know the integrity of somebody? Get access to their private bank accounts and see where does their money come from and how do they spend it. That tells you a lot about, someone that where they can, in one hand, publicly be one person, and in another hand, privately be somebody else. So, okay, that was my little bit of a soapbox there, Peggy. But anything else you want to share?
No, that's fine. Thank you so much, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for calling tonight. Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay, folks, we didn't have a lot of people calling in tonight with either comments or questions. So we do have, if you want to call in with some comments or questions, we got room. The number is 515-605-9356. And again, the number is 515-605-9356. You press 1 on your touch-tone phone. Blanca will come in and basically screen you. I do have someone here. It's a lady by the name of Marty from area code 360. Marty, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Hi, Dave. I met you at the Seattle event, probably the last one you did there.
That was a year ago.
About
11 months ago.
Yeah. So what happened is, if you recall, you put out the word that, okay, this is happening, here it is, and here's how it's going to work. And then 24 hours later, you said, oops, somebody leaked that information. But meanwhile, because of that, I started to proceed down the idea of, well, what would I do differently if I had $1 million? And not only that, what would I do with having the ability to spread several million around to nonprofits, essentially? And as a result of that, I created my own nonprofit. Well, not my own because it's a nonprofit and it's about serving people. But it's like it's changed my life. Now I suddenly have, it's like I have a purpose, and I'm proceeding with that. And I thank you.
Thank you. Good. You sit down, it's not about how much money. Now, yes, you have to make some investment to get a return, but a lot of it is about what do you want to do and make a plan for that and have a plan of it. What would you do with $10 million? A lot of people have trouble fathoming that because they don't think it's possible for them to get it. But it is. I can tell you, the gold's real and it's out there, folks. I mean, I've been there and I've been in touch with it and I've been around it. And I've been in touch with the people who have the ability to do it. And it's never been about, is it out there? It's about when it is safe for them to release it for us. It's always been, that's the bottom line. And I don't have all the answers to that. And what I do share is what comes from the sources that they give to me to be able to let you know. All I can say is, again, my sources that I had the last couple of days saying, please be patient, please wait. We're all in a blackout. We're not giving out any new information right now. So,
Well, part of the reason I wanted to come on and share this is because partly we don't have to wait. We can start putting one foot in front of the other and waiting till we get all these funds.
You can do all your planning now. You really can. You can do your planning. You can visualize what it is you would do with it and be able to feel that and to experience that. That's what puts the energy into motion that brings those things about. And when there's enough of us that do that collectively, that's what's going to happen. About when is that going to happen? I don't know. I don't have that answer. I wish I did. If I did, I'd be a billionaire if I knew when it was going to happen, but I don't. So.
Thank you.
Okay? Great. Thank you, Marty. All right. Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go to the next caller. His name is Alan from area code 978. Alan, you're on the air. What can I help you with tonight?
Hey, Dave. Yes, thank you. I heard this week about from the Neil Keenan website about this 21 trillion tons of gold that the cabal is trying to somehow hijack from the Golden Dragon family to somehow reboot the financial system for the cabal, and if they were successful in doing that it would kind of put a hold on anything good that we're trying to make happen. What can you tell us about that? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Is that a real possibility, or is that something that's high in the sky? Is that the last, stretch of hope for the cabal to try and pull this thing out of the backside, or what?
Well, from a practical position, I don't know anything more than what you have just told me. But it does not surprise me that they would try to do that because, based on my opinion, they're on their last leg. They don't have the money that they used to have. And they've been, slowly being neutered along the process. So of course they would try to hijack or steal or commander all that gold as much as possible to keep them in power and control. It's all about power and control. Their power and control. And it's about us work collectively to move them out of that. So, but other than that, I can't really tell you about what Neil Keenan is saying.
So you hadn't really heard of it even?
No, I hadn't.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you hadn't heard about it because that means it probably has very, very little credibility. And I would say that the neutering is probably moving forward, especially with the election results. I
think so. Again, I think it's too early to tell, but I do think it is really moving forward with the election results. And hopefully I'm going to know a lot more next week.
Because last week you said if Hillary did get elected, then she would really try to do everything she could to kill what's going on. And I guess we're all real encouraged that she didn't get elected. So we're moving forward probably at a better pace than we might have thought before.
Based on what I was told today, yes, but the information that I had was not very complete because basically, again, my sources this says we've been pretty much put on blackout and we can't talk about what's going on.
Okay. Well, good. I guess we'll just continue to be patient and hope for the best.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for all you do. God bless.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, next caller. His name is Al, and he's from area code 314. Al, you're on the air. What can we help you with tonight?
Yes, Dave, thank you for taking my call. David, I am not very aware of this transaction. Now, I have a buyer who bought some equipment from us, and it's been almost about a year and a half now. And we have invoiced them, and they've been recently telling us that they're going to pay, and they're waiting for this transaction, which I'm very naive about what it is as far as Bernard is concerned. My concern is that should I believe if this transaction that he's talking about is real, and can I get some input from you if this is, like I said, I've not been following anything on that. I just, you sent me an email where I got your site, and he says, listen to the gentleman, which is you, David Schmidt. And I said, okay, let me try to connect the dots together, if that makes sense. But just wanted to get your feeling on that. Is this something real that we should hope that he's going to be able to pay the money that happened, and that's what he's waiting for? And it's been several months, I should say, about a year and a half now, that he promises to pay, and we haven't got anything. So could you update me or give me some sort of just a brief that this is a real thing and this is going to happen? That's what I'm looking for, basically. Nothing very particular on anything else.
Well, first of all, I don't know your specifics. There are lots of different what you call buyers and brokers that are out there. And I think it's best that you do not even disclose over the air who that may be for you. I can tell you I am familiar with some that did turn in their currencies about a year and a half ago, and it's very legitimate and it's very real. They were all waiting for the funds to be released from the very, very top. I'm familiar with we're talking scores of trillions of dollars of buyers and brokers who are on hold as well, because nothing of this RVGCR is being released until it's safe for the whole system. And so it depends on the contract that you have. That's the issue. There were some out there that acted as buyers and brokers that were not very honest, and they collected the people's money and they can't even get it back. And so, but I can't speak for you specifically because I don't know who yours is, but I can speak very generally and say, yes, it is. It's very real. And I turned in some currencies about a year and a half ago that I'm waiting for just as well, but I cannot speak about any of that beyond that. Does that help?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Dave. The idea was to get a feel from you that this is a real thing, and you just answered that, so I'm fine with that, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, I've been in touch with real people who have the real money and the real gold, and they're all saying we don't get to make the final decisions on when all this is released. I've been in touch with an individual who has trillions of dollars underneath his control, but yet he cannot move it. And because all the money has to be moved through banks. And there has been at the very, very top, there are people that are telling these banks this money cannot move yet. And nobody gets to jump the gun on anybody else. When the money starts moving, it's all going to move at the same time, but yet it has to go down through its various layers and stratas of levels until it gets to us. It depends on, who are the buyers and the brokers and how many layers and how many paymasters and stuff like that before it can get to you. But once the word is done to release it, it's all moving. And then it gets to move at all the levels. And I can tell you, these are levels here in the United States, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Hong Kong, in Australia, in New Zealand, of places that I know that are aware of that the money will get to move.
So just the last question.
Sure.
That takes place with the, would you post it on your site that it is being processed now, or is there a way we can kind of like get to know it as being done now?
I can't really say because I don't know. And also they're on a blackout, so I can't really give you anything more than, what I've already said tonight. I just don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you again for taking my call.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Okay. Okay. Next caller is Kathy from area code 925. Kathy, you're on the air. What can we help you with tonight?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Good.
Great. It's good to listen to you. The last time you talked about that we needed to do some our own research about how to handle money if we wanted to be a millionaire or more. So I took you up on that, and I found a book that has made a big difference to me, and I just wanted to share the name of that book.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The book is called The Sudden Wealth Solution, and it's by Robert, and I can't say his name, but I think it's Pagliarini, Pagliarini. and he deals with why an LLC is a good thing. He talks about relationships. He talks about how to give money in the right way. And he's talked about so much, and I just feel like I am much more at a point where I can handle the money. I don't have the fear that I had before. And so I just feel like I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. What was the title of the book again?
The Sudden Wealth Solution.
The Sudden Wealth Solution. I'm gonna hold on a second. I want to write that down. I want to take a look at that because I do. That's a question I get a lot. Okay. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay, great.
Sure.
Anything else? Excuse me.
That's all. I just appreciated your telling us to do that research so that I could find this book.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll take a look at that book and I'll see what's there. And if it's that's probably a good recommendation. But I would always do something like that. Prepare yourself, educate yourself about how to handle all this kind of money and be prepared for when it comes. Because a lot of people don't, and they don't know how to deal with that. So, all right.
And I have to say, I didn't even know I wasn't ready, but I sure do now.
Good. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. It's very helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Next caller from area code 303, and her name is Diane. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. There we go. Okay. Diane, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Well, I just wanted to say some things about the election. I guess when I sat back and kind of reflected on everything, in some ways, I mean, and I know that this is you're probably not going to like this, but I'm just thinking that I just really question where the evolution of the American people are. It seems like we're going backward with this man. The way he's spoken of women and treated them. It also feels like, I teach school, and telling people to go F themselves and making fun of other people. Those are all things as a school teacher I try to, instill in kids to not to do. To be civil, to watch your words. Because, you being a pastor know that there's power of life and death in the tongue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I just really feel that, I don't know, I just really, it shows us where we're at. There's this great big, you can see by the number of votes cast and the closeness, there's really such a division in this country about how we see things and how we do things, and what is okay to us. I think that's what it showed me more than anything. And I don't think that we have the greatest selection in the world in either party. But the other thing I wish that people would do is look outside of the Democratic and Republican parties. They're there. In places like Israel, they've had like 19, I think up to 19 people to vote for, and passionately pursuing all of them and seeing what they had to offer. But we're just stuck in that Democratic Republican realm too. And my whole life I've wondered, well, since we didn't really have much to choose from, if we went into a store and we were looking for clothing and we only had two choices, you can be sure that we would be looking somewhere else. But I don't think that we do that in this country. We just always get stuck with the Democrats or the Republicans.
It is what we have.
That's it. Pardon me?
It is what we have, and changes like that don't come, quickly. Changes like that come because there's usually almost a type of a revolution. We've only really had about 3 or 4 political parties to choose from in our history. We had the Whig Party for a long time. when the Republican Party came into existence at a massive time of a revolution of the Civil War. It usually takes an event like that for something to rise up that's going to stick. It is what is. And do I like Donald Trump? No, not necessarily, but it is what is. So the question is, what do we do with what we have now moving forward? You and I can't change the past. It's done and it's over. It's over. And I think Trump had some bad stuff in his life, but I think also we have the ability to say he can change. And sometimes being put in a spot like this forces you. He got embarrassed. He really got embarrassed in this political process. And down inside, I think he realized he made some really serious mistakes. And a lot of it was a long time ago. You know, all of us have probably some sort of baggage from our past in our life that we don't like to have out into the open. The question is being able to move forward and not allow ourselves to be in such deep judgment. Judgment is very low negative energy responses that keeps us stuck in these cycles of all these problems. If we want to move forward, I'm the one that's responsible for me. I choose to move forward by forgetting what's behind me and just letting it be, because I can't change that. If it's going to affect me, I'm choosing to let it affect me. I'm going to choose to see some positive things in Donald Trump. Does that mean I like everything he does? Not at all. But I know I can do my job, my part, and by choosing to see the positive things that can come out of him and stepping into that and doing my part to help bring it about. If I'm going to fall back into judging him from his past, being negative about him and being critical about him, then I am just as much a part of the problem. I've become a part of the problem as well.
I don't feel that I'm judging him from his past. I feel like I'm judging him from his present. And, you know, those are things that I heard come out of his mouth, and attitudes that are just stinking thinking. So, you know, I'm cringing.
I know, but it's your choice how you're going to choose to.
We are stuck with this.
We are
stuck with this unless.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Unless, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just stuck with it, but I'm not happy with. I just feel like instead of elevate, you know, after all of this brutality, and then come in and say, well, now we need to come together. Just a minute here. I'm going to have to see some change in you before I even adapt you as my president. And the first thing you're going to have to do is clean that mouth of yours and be a role model for people, not this loudmouth New Yorker who who pushes his weight around. I find that very, very unpalatable. I think in the rest of the world, it makes us look like, you know, what are you doing? You know, do you guys have any sense? I just really feel like, you know, I don't know what we're doing. But anyway, that aside, I'm just now joining in, and I'm wondering, do you know if, so I've kind of been listening, and so there is no more movement on the exchange, right?
I can't say there's no movement. I just can't talk about it.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, so that's kind of, we're just kind of like in limbo here again.
We're in limbo.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Dave, and you have a good night.
Thank you, Diane. All right. Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm going to go to, let's see, a gentleman by the name of Larry from area code 516. Larry, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Hi, Dave. I'd like to talk to you tonight about something that I saw that was kind of disturbing. I don't, you know, you try to wonder about people's integrity and stuff like that. And I heard the last callers trying, you know, obviously a long-time liberal who just doesn't understand, who's into progressivism and just doesn't understand where Trump is trying to take the country, and that perfection, to find perfection, we probably need Yeshua to come down and take over. But that being said, and she's talked about us not having a lot of choices. In the primaries, you got plenty of choices, and the Republicans give you a ton of choices. The people chose Trump,
either go along with it or don't. What can you do? But that being said, I saw the Alex Jones video this week. Talk about disturbing. Do you know it's at all believable what he was talking about in there?
I don't know. I haven't seen what video you're talking about, so I don't know.
Oh, about the Podestas and the island.
Well,
Bill Clinton's been going to.
Well, I'm familiar with that.
I don't want to talk about details on the air, but because it was very disturbing.
I know. I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about now. But, Larry, I think there's a due process that all this is going to go through, and the question will be: is Trump going to follow up with what he said in the debates? And he doesn't get to do anything until he's inaugurated. Nothing. So I wouldn't even expect, unless the FBI is going to step in and reopen all this and take control of it, I don't expect anything until there's a shift and change in the administration. But it's a due process that has to go through. Personally, I think there is the potential to this to turn into another Watergate that could go on for 2 years in some of the stuff that could come out. That's just my opinion. But we'll see over time.
Right. To me, this whole thing, though, with the Podesta family supposedly involved in this, the wife having something to do with an orphanage and things like that, we're talking about, and then Alex went into you really should take a gander at it because it's extraordinary. He talks about the team of Secret Service people that are around both Bill and Hillary, and how they, the things that they say about them, actually talking about them being demonic. They're wanting to get off the details, trying to get themselves off details when they have to, that Bill has been to this island with this, this guy owns with like 30 times.
Yeah, but Larry, I'm going to stop. Larry, I'm going to stop you right there. So what? You're the one who's choosing to let it impact your life right now. I don't even go there. Because if I go there, then the next thing you know, I'm thinking about it, I'm feeling about it, and it's keeping me from being who I want to be. I want to be a person who doesn't move into that type of spending time. It's like spending time, looking at watching pornography. How much time do I want to do about that, and how do I feel about that? So I don't care what Alex Jones has to say. Alex Jones sensationalizes. That's his job, to get well paid and get good ratings. And I don't care. The stuff is going to come out in its own due time if it's supposed to. I'm going to challenge you about how is it impacting you, about how you feel. You're saying you feel horrible about it. Well, then why are you giving any energy to it? You see?
Right. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah. See.
But my point that is not what we've degenerated to. People are talking about how bad Trump is, but it's not what we've degenerated to having for candidates for president. I mean, that's all I meant by that. I mean,
I understand. I think the stuff's going to come out in due time, but it's got to go through a due process on that. Okay. But thank you for calling. Thank you for calling. All right. Anything else? All right. Thanks, Larry. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see. I need to scroll down here. Let's see. I'm going to go. How many more people do I have? I think right now I've got about 15 minutes left on the program. I'm going to go to a caller by the name of Mark from area code 570. Mark, you're on the air. What can I help you with?
Hello, David.
Yes.
I'm so grateful to be able to speak with you. Thank you for all you're doing. And I'm a musician. I live in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I got to travel around the world a little bit when I was a little bit younger. And I'm basically calling because I've been coming up with some creative ideas, and something just kind of recently got me a little bit of media attention, in that a friend of mine who is actually used to be the mayor's wife, the last mayor of Scranton. She got me involved in a music project that we're playing music in the hospitals. Now this is kind of like a test pilot thing, but it's really exciting because it got a lot of exposure in the local media recently, and it kind of was it just happened. It manifested because I was putting it out there, thinking about ways that we might be able to use the money if we get it to be able to help. Basically, I thought I'll start with the musical community. Like, I'd love to be able to help in different ways. So this is really cool that I'm bringing. Basically, my friend and I are playing. I play the violin, and he plays handpan, and we're just playing in the ICU in a local hospital for 4 hours every Tuesday, and it seems to soothe people. And we played yesterday, which I felt was extremely pertinent because I'm a big believer in just the effect that we all can have on the world, basically, just with our thoughts. And it's just really great to be able to make music and to be able to not have to say anything and to see that effect. Now, looking at the bigger picture, obviously with this is something new, but the hospital has embraced this. The doctors, they appreciate it. People walking by, the nurses, they appreciate it.
Mark,
patients.
can you tell us what it is?
And this is just
You've been
really
going on
cool.
for almost 3 minutes and haven't even gotten to the point yet. Okay?
Yeah, well, my point is, heck, if I had lots of money, I would love to be able to, get the railroads going again and all these other things. But I just thought I'd just share one idea that I had creatively, which was, in this economy, there's a lot of musicians and artists and people, that have really taken a big hit. And I'm really grateful that Trump won. I'm not going to get into the whole politics thing, and I don't want to blab. I just figured I was gonna call about something totally different. And I was talking to Blanca, and I just thought that I would share that we're doing some good and
Good. Okay.
in the field of sound, and how that can be something that could be healing. I just encourage everybody listening to just think of ways that you can make an impact on your local community, not just like some people maybe, like I basically had moved away from Scranton, and I came back here to help take care of my grandparents and my father, and I got to spend the last few years of their lives with, I got to spend time with them and take care of my 96-year-old grandpa,
Sure.
and my father, and it was so meaningful to come back home. And then I realized that there's work that needs to be done at the local levels, and
Good.
the best way to do good with the money will be to invest, in, I think, our strengths personally.
Good. Okay.
I could keep talking forever, but Dave, I don't want to take the show away from you.
Great. Thank you. Any specific questions?
Yes, I was just wondering, there was something that I just was alerted to today. It had to do with Wells Fargo having money that has to do with the pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. And there was a video I saw, and the guy said, take out your money and put it into, I don't know why I'm nervous talking to you. I'm sorry, but
You're doing fine.
he was saying he'll put it into like a local bank thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just was wondering if you would recommend doing that, or
Wells Fargo has
any
over
knowledge of that.
Wells Fargo has over 40 million clients, customers. And, people can do what it is if they feel that's important to them to take their money out of Wells Fargo because one of their customers happens to be, the company that's doing the pipeline. Well, people can choose to do that if they want to. That's up to them. I make I don't go into that stuff because I figure that's their business, other people's business, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't recommend Wells Fargo because I'm a pro Wells Fargo fan. I recommend it because I thought if you want to get your money quickly, that's the way to go. If you don't, that's your choice. You do what you feel you need to do for you. That's what's most important. But Wells Fargo is going to have an impact upon this, and so it's to your advantage. You could open up a Wells Fargo account and only put $50 in it, and then when the money comes in, use it as what is called a provisional account and move it all out to somewhere else if that's what you want to do. It's up to you.
That's what I was.
It's totally up to you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That had crossed my mind. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Okay.
affirming that as an option.
Thanks, Mark. Okay. Have a good evening.
That's all you do. We'll be here just trying to keep the vibration raised and
All right.
Keep positive.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
We love you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye bye.
You too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to another gentleman by the name of Stephen from area code 216. Stephen, you're on the air. What can we help you with?
Hi, David. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm hearing some stuff in the background.
Oh, from the car. I'm in the car.
Okay.
Is it still noisy?
Nope, you're good now.
I'll turn off the radio.
You're good.
Okay. Anyway, you were here in Cleveland. I had the pleasure of going to the Cleveland show that you did last year, and I was very grateful for it. I just wanted to say something. I heard that young lady, the school teacher, talking about her sentiments about with Trump being in the yucky feeling, and I can understand, I can appreciate that, because I know many people who felt that way when Barack Obama was elected. But guess what? We're all here,
Yep.
And we're still moving forward. So I just, look for the love in your heart, and that's what I do now, because I just go to love my heart, and I watch things just disappear. So that's the best thing I could say to her. He's not going to hurt anybody. He'll be fine. And I don't think anybody has to be worried about. I think we have to worry about our country and hopefully help get it back on straight to our collective consciousness. So that's about it. Love you, Dave.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I enjoy it.
Okay.
Have a good evening. Sir.
Alrighty. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the comments. Okay, let's see. Blanca, I don't see anybody else there on calling in. Do we have anybody else? Do you want to come in and let me know what's going on there?
No, I don't see anyone else come on the line, so I think you've covered it.
Okay.
Lots of good questions, lots of comments.
We got about 7 minutes left on the program here tonight, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to a couple of the emails, and if nobody else calls in and wants to talk, I mean, if you want to, you can get her, you can be here really quickly, because right now we don't have anybody else. So, somebody just popped up, or no, I was wrong on that one. So, okay, all right, I'm going to go back to some of the emails. Folks, I want you to know that somebody had emailed me about something where my name was appearing on another website, and basically they had said that I had said that I had been paid and funds were put into my account and nobody had gotten an SKR and that I was holding the funds and I had not given anything to anybody and the people were all mad and stuff like that. And folks, when you choose to be out in the public, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say things about you that are plain unfactual and lies. I understand that. And you have the right to email me or come here on the air and ask anything that you want. I will always do my best to be very open and honest with you and tell you what I know. If I can't say, I won't say. But here's what I will say is when you get close to the goal line, the attacks start coming out. I expect to be attacked by a lot of people who are mad and angry. People, they're mad and angry at themselves. Just tonight on, some of the stuff that was here on the chat room, it was just derogatory. I'm sorry for people like that all they can do is talk about derogatory sexual innuendos on my chat room. That's a reflection of people who are very derogatory within themselves. At the bottom of that, it means there's a real poor lack of self-love that they have toward themselves. And all they can do is attack, be derogatory, be negative, and be very degrading in this whole process. First of all, I don't have to tolerate that, and I won't. You guys can go somewhere else and live that type of a lifestyle. I expect it. It comes with the territory. I learned that when I was in the legislature. Multiple times my life was threatened. I would get, sometimes 30 and 40 really nasty, derogatory emails every single day. But what it did do, it helped me really take a look at myself and to go within and says, who do I really want to be? Is that the life that I want to live? Is that the type of person that I want to be? And most of us down inside will say no. I'm always willing to allow people to have the opportunity to look at themselves and take a look at what's going on here. But I also know that there is a point where I don't have to tolerate that on this program, because I'm not going to allow that type of what I call nasty, negative energy into this program. I don't have to. It's my choice because it's my program. And I know the vast majority of you appreciate that. I'm here to do what I can to help fix and improve this world. Do I make mistakes? Of course I make mistakes. Am I human? Of course I'm human. Do I have my own issues to work through? Of course I do. We all do. But when it comes back to we have what is called a common acceptance toward each other, a common appreciation toward each other, a love that we express toward each other, that life gets to be enjoyable. I could choose to do a lot of other things to attract a lot of more people to my site. I choose to not do that because I care about the people who are here, and I like to have quality people, if that's the best way to put that. People make their choices. I have no control over somebody who's going to sign up on my newsletter list, and I don't necessarily have a control over who's going to come into the chat room. But I can take people and I can delete them so that they can't ever come back. And I will do that with some of the people that are on here tonight. So I want the chat room to be open where you can enjoy that as a form of conversation with each other, but I'm not going to allow it to be people who are going to be here extremely derogatory. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Blanca, I don't think we have anything else. Any comments that you would like to make up before we call it an evening?
No, we don't have any more callers. I want to thank folks. And some people who had to vent a little bit about the elections, they were welcome too. But I think the message is, hey guys, we're creating this reality. We've got other things we're trying to bring forth. Sorry about some of the guys in the chat room. Clean up your energies. It'll help you. It'll help others. That's all I've got to say.
I know. Blanca, I am looking forward to seeing you this weekend because, folks, Blanca's her and her husband, Alan, are going to come down and join us in Orlando at the workshop there. It'll be really nice to see you and Alan in a couple days.
Yes.
Okay.
We look forward to seeing you too. And
Good.
seeing the folks in Orlando.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week on the Sedona Connection. Okay, bye-bye.